honoring the traditions of the past, the Taung remained a highly religious people, even as they transitioned to Mandalorians, dedicating much of their culture to honoring the war god Kad Harangir, who brought about change and growth through destruction. He stood in opposition to Arasam, the sloth god of idleness and stagnation. Therefore, the Mandalorians waged war as a form of worship, believing the death and devastation they caused brought about a greater good of renewal, so things might be born anew, better than before. Armed with this philosophical and theological justification, the Mandalorians left their planet to become a semi-nomadic people, following leaders like Mandalore the Conqueror to wage war across their system and beyond, greatly expanding their territory and influence. It was while exterminating the insectoids of Nevuda that the Taung started to experience warfare and conquest with an increasingly religious fervor, becoming Mandalorian Crusaders, who believed it their duty to fight an unending holy crusade across the galaxy. Much of Crusader culture was defined by the canons of honor, which promised honor and glory to those who sought warfare and remained loyal to their clan. But just as important was the Raison, or 6 actions, which stated all Mandalorians must wear armor, speak Mandoa, defend themselves and their family, raise any children as Mandalorians, contribute to the welfare of their clan, and rally to the Mandalore should he call for his people. Among the many species and worlds destroyed by these early Mandalorians, there were the insectoids of Nevuda, the Fenalar, the Kuarans, the Talonians, and the Basiliskans, a lizard species which rode basilisk war droids, a technology seized and adopted by their conquerors. Yet not all those targeted by the Crusaders were so easily bested, as the Mandalorians were defeated and repelled by a planet in their own system. Unable to subdue the giants of Mandalia, the Crusaders were so impressed they called off the invasion to instead become allies, welcoming the giants into Mandalorian society. Intrigued by these alien warriors, many of the giants joined the ranks of the Mandalorians, beginning a culture shift in which they no longer viewed themselves as a species, but rather a culture and creed that could be adopted by anyone willing to accept their faith and traditions. According to legend, it was under the courageous and relentless Taung warrior known as Mandalore the Indomitable that their religious views underwent a radical reformation, as their leader claimed to have had a vision on the planet Shogun that convinced him to eliminate the Mandalorian pantheon of gods in favor of venerating warfare directly. Ramping up their wars of destruction and conquest, Mandalore the Indomitable led his Crusaders to many victories, until finally defeated in single combat by the former Jedi-turned-Sith Lord qel-droma, apprentice to the Dark Lord Exar Kun, who was planning an invasion of the old Galactic Republic. Though Mandalore sought no mercy and asked for death, Ulic instead made them allies, beginning a partnership that brought devastation to the galaxy in the Great Sith War of 3996 BBY. The Mandalorians fought in the battles of Forost, Coruscant, and Onderon, only to suffer a humiliating defeat at the hands of the Republic and Jedi, forced to scatter, with some seeking refuge on the dangerous moon Duxin, where their ruler was killed by vicious wildlife. When other Mandalorians went looking for their leader, a lone Taung male found the ceremonial mask as all that remained, and so placed it on his face, declaring himself the new Mandalore, convinced it was his destiny to bring their people out of despair and toward new heights of honor and glory. Known as Mandalore the Ultimate, he established the moon of Duxin as a base of operations, and traveled to the stars, seeking to reunite their scattered people under his leadership. Meanwhile, back on Mandalore, some of the disillusioned veterans, still outraged over their defeat in the Great Sith War, decided to start their own faction of Neo-Crusaders, which emphasized hierarchy and discipline. Proving themselves in smaller engagements, these Neo-Crusaders became the most effective and efficient warriors on Mandalore, attracting many to their cause, including Mandalore the Ultimate, who brought them into his domain, using their fighters as a vanguard in many winning battles. It was under the influence of Mandalore the Ultimate and the Neo-Crusaders that recruitment policies among their people evolved, no longer simply accepting those who wished to join their ranks, but now actively recruiting and seeking out new comrades, paying no heed to their species or former allegiances, so long as they followed Mandalorian doctrine. Growing their numbers rapidly, the Taung now fought beside various different species as equals, including many humans descended from the ancient Gel enemies which chased them from Coruscant. Although Mandalore the Ultimate did well in rebuilding their people, bringing back a sense of power and prestige, everything changed in 3978 BBY, when he met a red-skinned emissary from the hidden Sith Empire of Dark Lord Vitiate. told the Emperor saw a vision of Mandalorian victory over the Republic. Mandalore was mentally manipulated by the force powers of the emissary, and so agreed to wage war against this galactic superpower. Although Emperor Vitiate did not truly see a vision and knew the Mandalorians stood little chance of success, he used them to test enemy defenses in preparation for his own invasion of the Republic. Fighting the Mandalorian Wars from 3976 to 3960 BBY, Mandalore the Ultimate was finally defeated in the Battle of Malachor V, killed in single combat by the Jedi hero Revan, who took the leader's mask to prevent another from taking his place. Suffering yet another cataclysmic defeat, the Taung species that once entirely made up the Mandalorian people were now all but extinct, with Mandalore the Ultimate widely recognized as the last Taung leader of their people. Yet the legacy of their warrior culture was inherited by the other species who adopted these traditions and passed them on to future generations. Some years later, Revan gave the Mask of Mandalore to Canderous Ordo, a trusted Mandalorian ally, asking him to unite his people as Mandalore the Preserver in the hopes of rebuilding their strength to one day fight in defense of the Republic. Reluctantly accepting the role, Canderous embarked on a campaign to unite, preserve, and strengthen the Mandalorian people. Although many thought the Taung were gone, Canderous Ordo stated he encountered a dying Taung warrior in his travels, who claimed he was the true ruler of their people, leading a faction that saw Mandalore the Ultimate as an illegitimate pretender. Deeming Canderous worthy, the leader gifted him a set of impressive armor and granted his blessing for this human to inherit, preserve, and pass on the legacy of the Taung. Bringing this small faction into his clan, Mandalore the Preserver did his duty, ensuring the survival of their people for thousands of years to come, with Mandalorian warrior culture remaining active up to the reign of Emperor Palpatine and beyond. A special thanks to all those who contribute to Civilization X, like Sir Dayron of House Ashford, Fred Heartless, Knight of Iron and Ice, Ishmael Ahmed of Shamidiana, and Barachado. If you'd like to help the channel, be sure to give a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and click on the links below, or else go to patreon.com/civilizationx, where you can gain early access to videos, vote on future content, and watch the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.